As you can all see, we've been joined by Jeff Gordon in the press conference room. Before we get started with his media availability, we do have a gift from our Raceway President, Steve Page, who can make his way up.
How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. I'm just take a moment, but I've had the privilege of being here for Jeff's entire career. In fact, my second race here in '93 was his first race at this track, and if there's anything if the concept of a home team belongs in racing, I would say that Jeff Gordon and Sonoma Raceway is as close as you get, both in terms of his connection, his performance over the years, and just the deep roots and fan base that you have here. And it's always such a pleasure to have you here. We do have a gift. We wanted to do something that was Sonoma specific, and my first thought was a crap table with the Sonoma Raceway logo on it, but my buddy Chris Powell in Vegas got ahead of us on that. So we have a little bottle of wine. Yeah, that is an 18-liter bottle. It has image of you doing a burnout after one of your victories, and each of the years that you won the Cup race here. So hopefully you find a nice spot for that.
And we can etch in one more if we have.
There's plenty of room. Yes, we have room. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Steve, and everyone at Sonoma. I love coming out here, not just because it's home. It's just so many things, you know, the weather, the wine country, family, and I love this racetrack. So I'm thrilled that I've had the opportunity to win here 5 times, and you know, thrilled to be here this weekend for the final time behind the wheel, and it's already been a very special, memorable one. Just, you know, starting last week, going to Rio Linda and then out to Vallejo, and I think it's only the beginning of what we have in store for us this weekend. So thank you.
All right, we'll continue on with our availability here for Jeff Gordon, driver of the number 24 AARP Member Advantages Chevrolet this weekend. Certainly a hometown favorite. Has 5 wins here at Sonoma and is the all-time wins leader in road courses tracks with 9. All-time winner here at Sonoma with starts, wins, poles, top 5s, top 10s, laps led, and average finishes. Comes into this race with 9 consecutive top 10 finishes, including runner-ups in the last 2 races. So we'll open it up for questions. We'll start right here on the left. Got a mic right behind you.
Jonathan Merriman, NASCAR.com. Jeff, she talked a little bit about those stats. Obviously, we know Jeff Gordon's a good road course racer, but when you look at your stats here, 22 races, 18 times you finished in the top 10, 14 times in the top 5, and 5 wins. Is that kind of mind-boggling? Do you think about that when you come here, or do you just put that out the window and go drive the car?
Well, it certainly gives me a lot of confidence in what we're bringing here and what I'm doing here. You know, and just the way we execute is working. And you know, this track reminds me somewhat of Martinsville in the way in which very little changes here, from you know, how you have to set the car up, tires, gearing, you know, all the things that change so much at all the other big tracks where aerodynamics are playing such a huge role, and track position and all these things that we talk about being so you know, difficult and challenging as things evolve in the sport. This is one of those that has stayed constant. So what I learned early on in my career at tracks like Martinsville and Bristol and on the road courses, especially this one, even more so than Watkins Glen, because it's a faster track there at Watkins Glen, so aerodynamics play a bigger role. But here it's about finesse. It's about, you know, being aggressive but not too aggressive, finding grip in the tires and trying to maintain that grip. It falls off, the speed falls off abruptly over a run. So there's tire management and just being smooth and consistent that really pays off. And you know, when I go back to the very first time I was here, it didn't go quite so well. I don't know where I finished, but I struggled. I got into the tire wall back when they had the carousel. You know, pretty much, I wouldn't call it a flip, but I ended up on my side and destroyed the car, went to the backup car, and so it's nice to know that things changed quickly after that first year. It was a real challenge for me and a lot of competitors out here, and you know, I really took that challenge on, and really wanted to do well here and do everything I could, and the team did as well, and that's where things really started. I don't know how we pulled that off. I'm not sure, because yeah, I guess I learned my lesson over there in the carousel prior to the race. I'm not sure exactly. I don't remember all the details of how that race went, but I'm pretty sure it was the second year when we came back, when I was running behind Mark Martin and Earnhardt and watching them battle it out, and it was sort of like being at Daytona in '93 for my rookie, my first ever Daytona 500. I was in awe, didn't know what I was doing there, and I didn't know how to execute to try to win it. And that second year, it's sort of how it was. I was just riding along, watching, not sure how to get ahead of them, but I learned a lot in watching that, and we started to go on a pretty good streak of our own.
Okay, we'll take our next question from Bob, then go to Jared.
Bob Parkhurst, ESPN. Except for New Hampshire now, you're going to every track for the last time, and I'm curious if that's kind of sunk in at all.
It's certainly, this one is especially starting to sink in. It was hard at Atlanta. It was so early in the season. We had so much racing left to go. And even still, there's a lot left to go, and we're focused on winning in a lot of tracks and the chase and everything else. But I think because of what Steve and all the folks at Sonoma have done, and just you know, family and friends that I have out here, it does feel different. It feels a little more emotional, and I think that will ramp up through Sunday. You know, this has been a very special place for me, and always will be. But you know, to know that this is the final time that I'll be driving here, you know, and just the build-up, you know, going to Rio Linda, that quarter midget track last week, that, you know, was the first place I ever raced at. Just built a lot of emotion into what's occurring this weekend. So it also adds pressure that I want to do really well this weekend.
Okay, we'll go Jared, then Claire.
Yeah, Jared Turner, FoxSports.com. Jeff, a couple things really quick. What are your expectations for the rules package at Kentucky? And secondly, what was your reaction to NASCAR's statement this week regarding the Confederate flag?
So Kentucky, you know, we won't really know till we get there and we experience that package. I think that the tire is still not quite soft enough for the amount of downforce that is being taken off, and that was a big thing for me. I was really in favor of seeing more downforce being taken off. When this engine package was decided to be the engine package, I felt like in order to complement that and keep the racing exciting and the drivers really working hard inside the car and the teams needing to work, to get the cars working well, or better than the competition, we needed a tire to match up to that. That was going to have some fall off, like what we see here. The tires have a lot of grip at the beginning, and they start to fall off pretty substantial, and I think it makes for great racing. And that's what I'd like to see everywhere we go. So there was a step that was made for Kentucky previous to these rules, but then when the rule change came, the tire has not changed. I think I heard that there may be an option. So we'll know when we go and test. As far as Confederate flag, I think that I know how we approach it at Hendrick Motorsports, and that's everything that we can control. We've eliminated the ability to use it in any way or it show up in any of the things that we're involved with. And I think that that's the stance I see that NASCAR has taken and have had that stance for several years. And so, to me, I'm in support of what they're doing. It's a delicate balance. I mean, we race all over, but the South is an area where we have a lot of fans, and everyone has different opinions and expression of that. And so, I support NASCAR on the stance that they've taken.
Okay, well, go ahead, Claire.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Since you last won here, how much has changed about how equal the drivers are at this track, or how they race here, or this particular track?
Yeah, I can remember showing up here early on and nobody really, or not nobody, but very few drivers were excited about coming here. They all looked, oh my gosh, a road course, and because they just knew the chances of sliding off the track and making mistakes, and that it really wasn't a factor in the championship. But as competition grew everywhere, it also grew on the road courses, and everybody started realizing that you couldn't allow even one race to get away from you, and that started forcing the teams and drivers to step up their game on the road courses. For me, I did a little road racing prior to racing in NASCAR, just go-karts and things. I never had shifted on, well, I guess I did a little bit, not racing, but just some practice. And I really just loved that challenge. I loved it. I thought it was fun to attack a racetrack like that and try to figure out how to do the downshifts smoothly, put the lap time together, connect all the corners and make as much of a perfect lap as you possibly can. And I just, over the years, I've seen that progress with other drivers and teams, and now I think the cars are far more equal today than they used to be. We used to be able to have some areas where we could you find an edge, maybe in the transmission or the braking, the setup, where we move the weight around and things like that. These days we're just not able to do that. So it really is not only equaled out the cars, but it's allowed the drivers to be more equal on these tracks as well.
Okay, next Jeff Gluck, then Woody.
Jeff Gluck from USA Today. With Marcus Ambrose gone back in Australia, it seems like many people had said that he was kind of the top road racer. Where does A.J. Allmendinger rank in that conversation now?
Well, I mean, he ranks up there as much or more. I mean, he outran Marcus at Watkins Glen last year, which I thought was extremely impressive because, I had been racing with Marcus that weekend up until we had our issues, and he was strong. He was really tough, and I didn't think anybody was going to be able to beat him that weekend. And the fact that AJ did shows what his talents are on a road course. I will say that this road course, it takes a different type of driving style. AJ is extremely aggressive. Nobody drives in the corners deeper than AJ does. And I think that it's at Watkins Glen, that way of attacking the racetrack is very beneficial and definitely puts good lap times together, and it's tough to beat. Here, I think there's a fine line and balance between that. I think AJ has the skills to be the fastest and the best here this weekend, certainly in qualifying, and then it's going to come down to executing that in the race. But yeah, I would say he's the guy to beat.
Okay, Woody.
Woody came with MRN. Jeff, with Daytona coming up, the 4th of July race, I was just curious if growing up you have any special memories of celebrating that holiday, or were you always like at a racetrack and having to do it then or there? I know you've been going since you were a kid, but just any memories you might have of celebrating 4th of July with your family growing up?
I mean, it was, I've always been at a racetrack. So, I mean, the only memory that really stands out to me is one time I went go-kart racing in Quincy, Illinois. And I think fireworks were illegal where our hotel was, but they were legal where the racetrack was. And I bought the fireworks where they were legal and brought them over to where they were illegal and caught a tree on fire. I do remember that. But other than that, I can just always remember being at a racetrack. Not the grand fireworks that we certainly have these days. I can promise you that.
Okay, go ahead. We'll take our final question up front.
Hi, Jeff. Tom Fitzgerald, San Francisco Chronicle. As a guy who came into this Cup series originally as the outsider from California, I was wondering what your relationship has been with the Earnhardts over the years, senior and junior. What was the whole dynamic? Has it evolved at all?
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic because I know with senior and myself, right away, battling for the championship in '95 created a rivalry among our fans. and somewhat among ourselves as well. But Dale had this amazing knack of embracing that, publicly, but then privately, we were just, like, it was almost as if we weren't even competitors. He really, gave me great advice. Sometimes when I asked, he only gave you advice about racing when you asked for it, and he was limited on that. But if it came down to business or the sport in general, he was an open book. And so I don't know if it was my curiosity and asking the right questions, or him just being very gracious towards me in that sense. So that part of the relationship was fantastic, and it was not what you saw at the racetrack. At the racetrack, it was sort of the he had that demeanor of the intimidator, and he showed it on the track and walking down pit road and anywhere around the track and the media center, whatever it may be. But then all other times it was different, which I was fine with. That was fine with me too. As far as Dale Jr., he introduced me to Dale Jr. when Dale was maybe 16, 17 years old, or I don't know. He's not that much younger than me, so he's only a few years younger than me at North Wilkesboro, I remember, and he was running a late model there, and Dale's always, Junior's always been very gracious to me as well, and I don't know, I guess because of the respect that he and or his dad and I had, maybe that transferred over to Dale Jr. and myself as well. But certainly for quite a while, when his dad passed away, it seemed like the rivalry among the fans was there with Dale Jr. and myself. And so I know that when he became my teammate, there was some displeasure in that, because they thought that still existed, but that really never existed between Dale Jr. and myself like it did with me and his dad, because Dale Jr. and I have never really battled for a championship, and we've always enjoyed one another's company and friendships and what we did on and off the racetrack.
Jeff, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We spent a lot of it talking about stats. Hopefully we'll see you back in here again this weekend. This won't be your last availability at Sonoma. Good.
Because I wouldn't be able to lift it. This was a wise choice.
You probably will. Jeff's on the bottom of that.
Absolutely.